craft beer reviews, brewing questions, past episodes of Brew For You and Brewing Today can all be found at beerloons.com, the site for brewing information on the internet. Hi everyone, I am your host Mike Campbell and welcome to Brewing Today. Today we are continuing our series of off flavors or unusual flavors in beers. On this show I'm going to discuss a nutty flavor in beer. Nutty is not necessarily an off flavor, but some beers are known to have more of this flavor than others. For example, Hexnut Browns are known for a nutty flavor. We'll mix up a batch of nutty beers so you can find out for yourself what to look for in a beer. To start, we need an American lager. I'm using Miller Lite today. We need some almond extract and some water. Distilled water is ideal, but tap water will work if you need to. And what you're going to need to do is you take 1/8 of a teaspoon of almond extract and add it to 5/8 of a teaspoon of water. So mix that first, then take about 1/8 teaspoon of that solution, of the water and almond extract solution, and add it to about 4 ounces of beer. I poured in pretty aggressively, so I didn't really stir it up. I do have to say I used probably more of a 1/4 teaspoon of the solution rather than 1/8. I smelt it at first and didn't really notice as much as maybe I'd prefer, so feel free to add a little bit more if you need to. And what we're going to want to do first is take a smell. And you can definitely smell the almond extract in there, and you can definitely smell that nuttiness, and you may not know that it's almond, other than obviously you threw the extract in there, but you notice that kind of sweetness, that almond or nut aroma. Excuse me. All right, why don't we go ahead and give this a taste. Now, don't feel too bad if you don't notice the nutty smell a lot in the aroma. Taste-wise, you should notice it a little bit. And if you know the beer that you're drinking, whether it's Bud Light, Miller Lite, or Bud, or I don't care what it is, as long as you know what the base tastes like, when you go to try it with something like almond extract in it, you should notice a pretty big flavor difference. Which you can definitely taste that sweetness and that nuttiness. Some beers will have more examples of this where it's a little bit more dramatic nuttiness to it. Don't think like peanuts. Usually you don't get too much of a peanut flavor, but you get more like almost like a walnut, sometimes a hazelnut flavor, things like that. And nuts are used in brewing, so you may get a beer that actually uses real nuts in the brewing process. So now that we've smelled and all that, and like I say, add some more if you can't taste it or don't notice it. So what causes this flavor in beer? Most of the time, it is grain that produces a nutty taste in beer. Golden Naked Oats, for example, leaves a sweet nut flavor in a beer. It's going to be somewhat similar to what we're tasting here. Sometimes a mix of grains can produce a nutty flavor as well, such as brown malt and chocolate malt. They just kind of have a residual flavor that tastes kind of nutty. These are all specialty grains, so of course you don't want to go nuts with them if you're putting your own recipe together. But if you want to add a different dimension to beer, give them a try. I really like Golden Naked Oats. But again, you can also use actual nuts themselves. Most people might grind them up. If you're an all-grain brewer, a lot of folks put them in the mash, but you could certainly try it in the boil as well. Extract brewers, you want to put them in the boil to extract some of the flavor. Usually lasts 15 minutes or so. Like I said earlier, a nutty flavor is not really a flaw unless too much is present, so there really isn't any corrective action that needs to be taken if you notice this, but it should be true to the style. The nutty flavor can be a nice change of pace in a beer. It can be used in browns, stouts, porters. I've done it a few times in ryes. I've used Golden Naked Oats with rye malt. Really like the end result. It gives you kind of a sweety note, a malty note, kind of a nuttiness to the beer, but really different from what you're used to tasting in most commercial examples out there. Basically, just play around with it. See if it makes some of your recipes even better. I'm not a big fan of taking a recipe that has 5, 6 different grains being used. But if you have some recipes that are a little bit lighter, you could even do this in a pale ale or an IPA, just for something different. If you have a base malt or liquid gold malt or whatever, and your specialty grains are only maybe a caramel 60 and rye or something, this wouldn't monsterize the beer. It doesn't add too much flavor to the beer where you just can't pick out the individual characteristics. That's what I don't like about those recipes that have 5, 6, 7 grains in them. You just really can't pick out the individual flavors. It just becomes a mush. So I know this is a fairly short episode, but this is pretty straightforward. You take a little almond extract, you get a nutty flavor. Hey, imagine that. Hope we've answered your questions on this topic, but if I haven't, then email me at mikec@beerloons.com with your questions. I'll be happy to explain anything in further detail to you. Of course, as usual, we want this to be an interactive show with you, so don't be shy about emailing us. You can also find me on hopville.com, which is where I create all my recipes, by searching for Brewer Beerloons Mike or Brewer Mike on there. And that's going to do it for our show today. And don't forget about our craft beer reviews on the Brew For You show, now shortened to 5 minutes or less. Thank you for spending time with us this week, and until next time, cheers.